All right, everybody. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? How y'all doing out there in the YouTube world, in the podcast world, in the kick your butt out world? This is Paul, your hip hop relationship and recovery coach, bringing you another kick your butt out episode. As usual, before we get off into what we're going to talk about today, I got to say what I always say, and I strongly encourage you to hear this with this so that you can incorporate this into your lives. And that is, if you're looking for a butt, it's going to always be easy to find one. And that, my friends, is a promise. All right. Let's get off into what we're going to talk about today. I want to give a special shout out to my special guest. Um, he was on one of the episodes, one of the earlier episodes, and the title of that episode was "But My Mental Health." He's come back again, and I'm talking about he's come back with more power. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Um, and so we have titled today's episode of Kick Your Butt Out, "But My Mental Health Part 2." And with that being said, I got the honor, the privilege, the blessing, and the opportunity to welcome to this podcast again the one and only gifted, talented, greatness, extraordinary, Rich Vision.
Thank you so much.
What's going on, bro? How you doing today?
Good yourself. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely, man. Listen, this kick your butt out won't be kick your butt out without having you on here. More often, right? We get the opportunity to be able to do this again, and again. Because one of the things I want to say about you, brother, is that I love your bravery, right?
Mm.
Because too many of us as black men, we think being brave is holding on to and standing up under the man rules, the too tough Tony rules.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? We stand up under that and we fall up under that so much. And it's people like
Mm.
yourself, man, that says, I'm getting off this roller coaster because this roller coaster has not been helping me. It has not been doing anything, but actually destroying my life as a man, as a black man. And I want to do something different. I want to kill the norm. So I appreciate you and everything you do and everything that you're doing. With that being said, just tell the audience about Rich Vision. Who is he? What is his purpose? What is the meaning of Rich Vision? I love the word. I love the title, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. No, that means a lot to me, and I'm just thinking of just what you said, and then I'm getting like teary eyed because I it's been such a tumultuous journey from entering this music industry and navigating mental health and figuring out how to be an artist that has purpose. And for a while I wrestled with finding my purpose and figuring out what my purpose was. I am a recording artist, and my mission is to bridge the gap between music and mental health because I once was suicidal many times over, and I vowed to use my platform to be able to be a catalyst for change and to end the stigma of mental abuse, and to change the narrative of from being, victimized by self doubt and by um, suicide and by mental abuse to becoming victorious. And that's also the reason why I named my book From Victim to Victor, Transforming Trauma into Triumph, because it was a catalyst for my healing journey, for sure, to be able to get out of those that mental prison, if you will, to be able to be courageous to talk about
Do
a lot
this
of
to
my
me.
demons so that other people can see that they're not alone in their struggles and that they can get the help that they deserve. Because I know I wasn't the only one dealing with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Reading your book, and I want to, I want to make sure that I shout out this book because this book it has so much power in this book, and
Thank you.
it can relate to anybody. If you pick this book up and read it, I guarantee you can find some of your story in this book. And the name of this book, I want you all in the audience to hear this, and please go out and get it. It's called From Victim to Victor: Transforming Trauma into Triumph by Richard Searam. This guy, this book, it is so powerful. Thank you so much. You you gave a gift to the world, bro, when you wrote this book and put it out there. The bravery, the tenacity, you know what I mean, the resiliency, the relentlessness that you did to make sure you got this book out. You gave a gift to the world. You must know that. And the world, I promise you, y'all, whoever is listening to this podcast, you'll be robbing and cheating yourself if you don't go and get this book. And we're gonna talk about some of the things in this book because I want you to elaborate on some of the things that is in this book because there's so much power in it. And so without further ado, let me get into a couple of the things that stuck out to me and I highlighted, and I want to talk about today. So again, I told you all how powerful this book is, right? And it's powerful from cover to cover. Let me say it to you like that.
Thank you.
I opened up this book and I read the dedication. And I want to read the dedication to you all, and I'm going to ask you, Rich, to just elaborate a little bit on it. And so, again, from cover to cover, is power in this book. Now, let me read this. It says, to all those who have bravely navigated the labyrinth of the mind, finding strength in vulnerability, hope in despair, and healing in resilience. May this book serve as a beacon of light, illuminating paths to understanding, offering solace in uncertainty, and fostering compassion in the journey toward mental wellness. This is for you with deepest gratitude and admiration. Again, this is a mic drop dedication. Talk to me about or to the audience about what inspired this type of wording in the dedication.
Yes, thank you for that compliment because for me, just being in a dark space for so long, I just wanted to empower other people that although there's a dark moment in life where um, people may go to their darkest times, I've always noticed that there was always a light at the end of the tunnel. There was always someone to hold space for me that helped me along my path to remind me of my self-worth and reminded me why I'm here and reminded me that my purpose in life is to serve other people with my music. And I started to think about all those times where I wanted to commit suicide and someone always stopped me. And it was my vow also to be the one who says, okay, let's change the narrative, because I went from being someone who didn't really know how to navigate his own mental health because I was scared to share my vulnerabilities. And you talked about it at the top of the episode where that especially men of color, that's a stigma of being vulnerable because as black men we face a lot of trauma from how we were raised and how we were taught to not say anything about our mental health because it'll be something to be talked about. You know what I mean? As far as like um it would be something that people would be bullied about because it was considered feminine.
Yep.
So for me, being able to change that narrative for people to understand that they can speak about their traumas, the dark times, in order for them to be able to get to a place where they're healed, they're whole, and that they'll be able to find, solace in communities because I noticed when I put myself out there during my darkest times that I was embraced
Hmm.
by communities that were able to speak life into me when I was speaking death upon myself. So this dedication is so important because it sets up the rest of the material in this book, because the material is really deep. But although this is a deep, story about my life and what I've been through, I always have a positive message in the book, in my music, because I haven't always been depressed, and that's the thing. It wasn't my life sentence. It was something that was a stepping stone for me to get to where I am now, to be able to share that dark story, so other people could say, "Wait a minute, if he can do it, I sure as hell can do it also."
That's right. That's right. That's right. I love it, man. I love it. I love it. Here's what here's you said in the beginning. You said light at at the end of the tunnel. That's one of many powerful statements that we use, right? Like that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Here's what I want to be able, because this is about adding value, right, to one another as men, women, no matter what race, religion, creed, or color that you are. We want to add value to anyone who would allow us to add value to them. And so I want to say this to all of us. Here's what someone told me, and this is one thing that I pass on to lots of people who I deal with, who I'm talking to, who I'm working with, whether family, friends, professional, whatever. So somebody has said to me, because I was talking about looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. And the person said to me, it was so powerful, Rich. He said, you were a light in the tunnel.
Mm.
Yes,
Wow.
that was so powerful. That
Wow.
was so powerful. Cause see, the thing about it is, a light, is a light. A light gonna always be a light, no matter where it's at. It's not gonna stop being a light. And
That's
so
right.
sometimes, even in our darkness, or even in our darkest moments, or even in those times where we felt like everything was dark, looking within, we realize that we are a light in the tunnel, right? And that's one of the ways that we find our way out. So I want you to understand that, bro. Like, you were always a light in the tunnel.
Mm.
So
Thank you.
yes. So with that being said, I'm going to mention a couple of the titles, a bunch of powerful
Mm.
titles. Oh my God! Oh my God!
Mm.
Oh my God! Bunch of powerful titles in this book. I'm going to mention a couple of titles, and then I'll go to a couple of the particular ones and just read a little clip from it, and then just have you talk about what that means and what that looks like. Um, some of these, let me let you all know, these titles are powerful. Listen to this. Why me? I was broken. Escape. Suffer in silence. Isolation was my best friend. What's my value again? That's powerful. Who noticed? These are powerful titles among many in this book that you can go to and be able to read. And again, you can find yourself possibly in one or more of these poems, these songs, of these raps. You'll be able to find yourself somewhere in here. And thank you so much for your bravery. Um, I want to talk a little. I'm going to go to page 2 and read a couple of lines that you had mentioned. And one of the reasons why I highlighted this, Rich, is because one of my episodes of Kick Your Butt Out, I titled, "But You Leave Them There." And what I meant by that is
Mm.
that we have a lot of these statements that we use, and we just leave it there, when I understand in
Mm.
life that there's two sides to everything. We always give the one side, and we wonder why so many people are
Mm.
messed up. Uh, I believe there's an up, down, on, off, in, out, right, left, front, back. You know what I mean? It's two sides to everything. But we live in a world, and we live in a society that teaches us the one side. And here's something specific that I want to say. I talked
mm,
about the statement that they use. They said it's okay to not be okay,
mm,
and they just leave people there. That's true, right? It is okay to not be okay. You got to allow yourself to be human. But one of the reasons why so many people stay messed up is because that's why we leave people there. It's okay to not be okay. Yes, true, but it's not okay
yeah,
to stay not okay. It's not okay.
right.
Not okay. We got to get okay. And these couple of sentences that I'm going to talk about in this on page 2 kind of spoke to that. And and it reads as this: this book is not merely a chronicle of personal struggles. We could talk about the struggles, right? He says it's not a
Mm,
chronicle of personal struggles. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of self discovery in reclaiming one's sense of worth. You see how these couple of
mm,
sentences you talked about, it's okay, yeah, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay not okay because you talked about the resilience, right? You're talking about self discovery and reclaiming one's sense of self worth. What helped you to get to a place where you're not taking the one side or the victim stance anymore? Go ahead.
mm. Yeah, that's powerful. For me, my turning point was basically last last year, where one, I was going through mental abuse with a mentor of mine who was helping me along with my career for about 4 years. And the mental abuse was something that I faced during that time, during the pandemic. And I told myself it's either I, stay in this professional relationship with this person who is, um, mentally abusing me, or be able to get out of that personal relationship with my livelihood, which is because it was a life or death situation for me. So like I only had those two choices, because I also was contemplating swallowing lead during the time that I was in um, cahoots with her. So like for me, it was more of the fact that like I wanted to be here for my family was really the turning point in my life, where I'm like, if I don't get out of these spaces where where I feel like I'm victimized by mental abuse, or the things from my past that were creeping up during the pandemic. Also, even late last year, like I had an incident where bad mental health scare, where I was just in my room, just thinking about like, my life's purpose, and feeling like I wasn't getting anything accomplished. Like I was just thinking about all those bad negative comments that I used to get from my music very early on in my career, and that was just like overwhelming for me to have to go back and replay all these different things that I have yet to deal with and come to grips with. And sat up on my bed, looking at the ceiling. I rushed out of my bed, and I don't know, I just blacked out. And it was so sad because, I grabbed whatever I saw and I didn't even know it was an ammonia bottle. And then I went to the kitchen, and while I was about to pour it in my mouth, my sister comes in and grabs it and from me, and she chases me, and it's just crazy how I was letting all those demons in my head get the best of me. And I realized now, like I was like, that was like one of the other turning points where I said, this is not going to be the end of me. Like, I have so much purpose. What I was doing with my music, people that I've been helping and saving with the messages in my music, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to cut my life short, because God has something bigger for me, and I'm meant for more. And I said, wait a minute, I'm not going to be victimized by all those different things that in the past that held me back for so long, um and really made me feel like I was unworthy to be here. And then I started to get into therapy, um and I started to get into community, where I was able to speak about my struggles with my mental health, and just be open and transparent. Because up to that point, I was living through a mask. I had the smile, right? Everything was looking good, as far as my appearance and my face. But deep down, I was honestly dying inside. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know. I didn't have confidence in myself, and I hugged my head down like if I wasn't nothing, like I wasn't gonna amount to nothing. And I allowed other people's narratives to dictate my own
Mhm.
life. And
Yeah.
I lived through other people's narratives for so long, to the point where I don't want to be victimized by anybody else's narratives. I'm like, no, like I have the pen, and that's what really helped me pen the story, because I'm like, there's no way that I'm gonna give power to anyone to dictate, my self worth and what I'm here to contribute in this world, without a fight. And that's the reason why I started to get into a lot of my own self work
Mhm.
by affirmations, motivational videos, to be able to say, wait a minute, there's something in that struggle, but I'm not staying that way, because I know that there's other people who's living through my words.
Mhm.
And that was really the stone, that was really the turning point where I said, hey, wait a minute, there's substance in this, and there is healing, and there is a blueprint so other people can in a sense follow, that could help them and on their journeys of self-discovery.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. Because what you just said in a nutshell is that even in the midst of what you were going through, you understood and saw that there was another side too. You know what I'm saying? There was
Yeah.
another side, and I wanted to see what the other side was like. And you talked about in here
Mm,
about the self discovery and the sense of self worth, right? You know, that's what's on the other side: self discovery and the sense of self worth. And sometimes we may have had a glimpse of what that looks like, right? And we get the opportunity to see more of it once we step out of the tunnel or whatever or the circles or the groups or the situations that we were in. Once we step out, we get the opportunity to see that there is a brighter and a better other side. One of the things that I
yes.
hate that African American, Black American men and women use quite often is, "That's all I know." I hate that statement. I
Yeah.
passionately hate that
Mm,
statement. That's all I know, because what they're saying is that you don't want to know nothing else. That's what that's basically
right.
saying. And again, I appreciate the bravery that it took for you to not only write this book, not only get from up under that mentor, but to say, I'm stepping out because I don't want to
Yeah.
die like this. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate that,
Mm,
and thank you so much for that.
yes, thank
Um,
you.
I'm going to go because you talked about something that alluded to one of your titles, and the title is "Suffering in
Mm,
Silence." I'm going to go to that in a
yeah.
minute because I definitely want to have some conversation about suffering in silence, because that's what many of us do. But before we go there, I'm going to start at the first one. Why me? Right? And here's a little one of the bars that you wrote, right? You kind of alluded to it already about what your mentor, who the person who was supposed to be mentoring you, had done to you. And I'm just going to kind of read it, and so it'll bring more light to what you have already talked about. It says, "You stripped my manhood, unclothed, one with nature. Was I misunderstood? Gaslighting, the only food you catered." Love that. Gaslighting,
Mm,
the only
thank you.
food you
Yeah.
catered. This is and so the reason why I highlighted that is because you talked about the food that people cater, and
Mm,
you talked about the mental illness is a result of us eating the food.
mm, Yes.
And many of us eat the food because the people who gaslight us or put us down are the ones who supposed to be filling us, right? And help
Right.
us to
Yes.
grow. But you cater it.
Yeah.
You feed me a food. That's one of the reasons why we eat it. Because it's like you supposed to be the one that I'm looking up to. You supposed to be the one that's
Yes.
helping to develop me. You supposed to be the one that's helping to bring out my greatness and my extraordinary potential. You're supposed to be that one. And so I value and trust your words and your position. But under the same token, I'm understanding now that the food that you feed me is making me. You're trying to make me feel like I'm tripping. Talk about that.
Yes. Yes. No, that's good because like for me, that's always been my struggle is giving power to what people say and
Mhm.
not having my own sense of self in my own and what I am here to contribute with. And I was just easily, persuaded and gullible by a lot of the things, especially what my mentor was saying about me making it feel like I was wrong for reaching out to her so early in the morning when it was business hours, and I was told like I was unprofessional, and that really hurt in a sense my sense of self, because when it comes to mental health, I feel like there's no time that someone can place in order to get the help that they deserve, or when there's someone that is struggling, when they have crying for help. I don't think that a person could say no, there's a time limit on that, you need to do it at XYZ time that's more appropriate. I feel like
Yeah.
when someone's struggling, they need to be in a sense helped right away. It can't just be wait until next time, or another next 2 days, because who knows what could happen when someone is in that dire need of help, where 2 days from now they wouldn't even be here
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
it comes to that. So like for me, it's always been about not allowing people's comments, like her comments towards me in that regard, to allow me to think of myself as less than, because of what I was taught of, like, oh, don't be vulnerable. People gonna think I'm gonna be that I'm sensitive and things like that, that allowed to take space and precedence in my mind. But I also want to encourage people who are listening that regardless of what people say, we always have you have the say so, I have the say so of how I react to what they say, and then not allow it to take power over my life.
Yep.
And that was like the big thing for me, was like not allowing it to take power over my life and dictate who I was becoming.
Mhm. Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I want to add to it from a perspective of this.
Yeah.
Listen, people out there who are listening to this podcast, if you are taking on the title of a
Mm.
mentor, a coach, or something to that nature, you have to understand that you're working with people that can need you at any given time. And if you're deciding to put a time limit on it, don't coach. If you're deciding to put
Mm.
a time limit on it, don't tell nobody you're their mentor, because from my personal experiences is many of the times when I needed someone, they weren't there, right? So I know what that feels like when and so a lot of times when we need someone and they're not there, especially people who have mental illness issues and or substance use issues. If you're not there, the dope is. If you're not there, the alcohol is. If you're not there, the suicide is. If you know what I mean. If you're not
Mm.
there, if when I need
Yeah.
you're not there, the negative is
Mm.
always readily available. So
Oh, that's right.
if you're taking on this, right? If you're telling people that I'm going to mentor you, I'm going to coach you, I'm going to assist you in developing you, especially if you are developing someone from a standpoint of they're coming out of an unhealthy situation. I tell my clients all the time, I hope that you don't need it, right? But my phone, I never
mm,
turn my phone down because I know
mm,
how sometimes people can be in places and situations where, it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they just need to talk. They need to cry,
mm,
or whatever the case may be. So, and the reason why I talked about this is because you said that the lady, the person who was supposed to be your mentor, was trying to put a time limit on it, and more often than not, we need your assistance more in the wee hours
mm.
than what I'm saying.
Right.
After hours more than
Yeah.
during hours. Let me say that. Okay,
Yes.
here's another one in why me, and then I'm going to go to my powerhouse one. Like I said, suffering in silence. Here's another one that I want to mention in why me, and just kind of give us a little bit of what you're saying and what you're meaning behind this. It says, desire to be someone's survival guide, to show them they don't have to twist the knife, write love letters in a song to remind me I still belong. Woo! Look,
Mm.
hold on, before you go. Go ahead, bro.
Yes. Um. So this one was a time where um it is a line or bar about suicide and in regards to suicide ideation, because that was the point in my life where I was engulfed in that. I realized that by me writing these poems, these lyrics, and these songs, I didn't really know that there was people who were living through those lyrics and those poems, that I wanted to remind people that there is another way out of their darkness by offering them, you know, words of inspiration, words of hope, and because those are words that I needed to hear back then, that there was another way out, and sometimes I had to write them for myself. I had to reaffirm a lot of the things that I wrote in the book, because I was so far removed from um the victor, right? Because I stuck in that victim mode, and I put it on, the attire on, and I sat up, and I almost embraced it to the point where it was sickening. Like, I would hear videos about it for so long, and I'm like, am I really a victim? Like, it was really like where I questioned, like, if I was, gonna be this victim for such a long time in my life where there was no escape. And that was a point in my life where I was like, wait a minute, that's not the narrative that God called me for.
Right,
And he called me to be able to be a catalyst for change, which is the reason why I started to write this book. Because and that sentiment was the fact that, wait a minute, I know suicide is not the answer. I know that there's hope, and if there's something that I can say that helps other people get to the other side, then I will be that person to write that in a book, in a song, in a poem, to be like, wait a minute, you're here for a reason, and you don't have to short your life for any, like, short your purpose and your life, because you're meant to do amazing things.
that's right, that's right, that's right. Absolutely, absolutely. I love this conversation because again, we talked about how you have been a voice for other people to be able to get help as well. And I'm
Mm,
me doing the same thing. However, one of the things that I'm going to read in Suffering from Silence, I lived this too. Again, I'll talk about it once I read this little clip that you wrote in Suffering in Silence. First, I want to say this about suffering in silence. I really appreciate this title because I see so many people in church. Because I'm active, very active in my church. Um, Obviously, I work in the substance abuse field, uh, so I see people from different walks of life, different faiths, different beliefs, different values, different morals, and things of that nature. I see many people that don't have to, but they suffer in silence. This is one of the reasons why I have the podcast, Kick Your
Mm.
Butt Out. You don't have to, but we end up suffering in silence. I've been one of them myself. Listen, just like Biggie say, I'm not only a client, I'm the butt president, I'm the player president. I've been that dude that was suffering. I was
Mm.
comfortable with
Mm.
suffering in silence. And here's one of the things that Jay
Mm.
Z said in one of his songs. He
Mm.
said, "You can't heal what you
Mm.
won't reveal." Right. And so in this suffering
Mm.
in silence, yes, that's what he said. You can't heal what you
Right.
won't reveal. And in this suffering in silence, here's what you said: no phone in my peripheral, no hope in an empowering video. I was disheartened by how I couldn't even ask for help. I'm the first one to tell people to ask for help. Talk about that. That was me.
Yeah, yeah. See, that's the thing is, it's so it is a man thing. It's an ego thing where, as a man, um, for some reason, I think that I always have to be the strong person on the exterior so that people don't see me as weak or sensitive because as a man, let's be honest, society tells us, especially men, what they can't be.
Hmm.
And for a long time, a lot of people end up suffering in silence, especially myself, because I'm thinking, are people gonna judge me? And I
Hmm.
was more fixated on people judging me
That's
and
we.
my dark
That's we.
story and what I've been through.
Yeah.
Yes, then um than me attempting to save my own life, you know what I mean, if you will, only because if I would have been in a state back then where I was always fixated on what people said or XYZ, I wouldn't even be here talking on the podcast
Hmm.
because I wouldn't have not got the help because I would have been so fixated on that. Oh, this person's gonna judge me. Okay, then I might as well not get the help I feel like I need. And so many people stop
Yeah.
on the point of their lives where they feel like because they're getting help, they feel like other people are gonna make comments about it. And slick marks, it's like, no, get the help that you need because there's someone who needs you
That's right.
that you don't even know.
That's right.
And and that's the thing. It's like when people, especially me, when I was suffering silence, the reason why I hid it from my family is because I was so put together in a sense where, I was productive, I was getting things done, I was making moves in my music career, getting a couple accolades under my belt. So I wanted people to see me as someone who was always doing good.
Mhm.
I didn't want them to see the side of me that wasn't doing good because I want the people to see only the good stuff,
Yeah.
only the good side of me, right?
Yeah.
Because the dark stuff I didn't want to deal with myself, so I always hid it under the rug, and that's where I feel like a lot of people, especially me, went wrong with sweeping things under the rug because things that get swept under the rug always stay there
Hmm.
if they're not
Hmm.
if they're not resolved.
Hmm.
Like I had unresolved anger, I had unresolved depression. Um, a lot of it is because of the whole ideation of idolizing or just internalizing rather what a lot of people said, and I gave so much of my power away. Like I wanna stay there because I gave so much power away in my life to other people where I lost myself for so many years where I could have been I would have fast tracked my my healing if I would have not give a what about what other people said and thought and things like that. I would have got the help sooner.
Yeah.
And for me it's like that's where I would that's why this is so important to speak about because I noticed that later on where I'm like, damn, like it took suicide to me to be like, damn, I need to get therapy. I need to reach out to a mental health support group and really confide in other people who are also struggling. Like I took so much of my dark times to realize that, wait a minute, hold on. There's other arenas where I can find healing and I could embrace the help and the
Right.
resources available to me. Where years ago there was no resources for mental health. People were committing suicide, left and right, and there was no resource where people can actually call 988 and get the help that they deserve, or
Yeah.
you know,
Especially
email
in the
this
black
person or
community.
reach out to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in the black community, right? Especially in the
Yes.
black community.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes. That
So
part. Yes.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
and that I, when I first started this healing journey that I'm on, uh, I remember this was 2015 when I went to treatment for the last time, and I remember the counselor as we were doing the intake paperwork. The counselor had told me, he said, "Listen," and this was my sixth residential treatment, right? He said, while you here, you'll be required to go to support meetings like AA and NA and all of that kind of stuff. He said, but we won't be giving you any 12-step packets, relapse prevention packets, things of that nature to do while you're here. And I was so used to getting all of that stuff in the other treatments that I went to, whether it was residential or outpatient treatment. That's what they would give. Not that it's a bad thing, but that's what those are the main things that you get: 12-step packets and relapse prevention packets. So when he said that, I was like, okay, so if I'm not going to be getting that, what am I here for? What am I going to be getting? He said, and it was the most powerful statement that I ever heard in my life. He said, we're going to deal with why. And I said, what's that? I had no clue what the why, what that was, because I had never heard that terminology. Nobody had never spoken to me in that context or from that perspective. It was always the 12 steps and all that kind of stuff. And so he said, this is what he said. He said, one of the reasons why people continue to struggle with substance use disorder is because it's so much focus on not using or not drinking or whatever the vice was. And that's only 10% of the issue. He said the other 90% is why you use the 10%. And so if you deal with and overcome the why, you'll lose the desire for the 10. You'll have a reason for the drugs or the alcohol or whatever the vices is because you have dealt with the pain, the trauma, right? The mental abuse, the physical abuse, the spiritual. You have dealt with all of these things, and that's what's the why is all of those things that we never deal with or haven't been exposed to. And I'm
Mm,
saying all that to say because, like I said, in the black community, we had never heard of any of these things. Nobody had ever said, I was 48 years old, Rich. You hear me, brother? I was 48 years old, and I had never heard anybody say anything to me about dealing with why I used. And so I'm glad that you said the things that you said because I want people out there to understand, just like, again, the things that you're doing is so powerful. And I want people to understand
thank you.
it's more of why you do what you do that needs to be talked about than the
Mm,
what you do. Why are you doing this? Where's this
right.
coming from? We need to deal with that. And again, we didn't have the reason. We didn't. we weren't exposed to those resources because, again, like you were saying earlier, we would have been, especially African black men, we would have been labeled weak. I'm from Chicago. I'm from the hood. You couldn't show no sign of weakness in the hood, man, or you would have got run over. Um, so yes, thank you so much for that. I want to
Yes.
go to this next one in suffering and silence, and then I'll end it with another excerpt from the book. Here's what you said in suffering and silence. So people out there in the YouTube world, in the podcast world, in the kick your butt out world, in the rich vision world, we want you all to understand you don't have to suffer in silence. Period.
Mm.
All right. It says, no pride will cause me to feel disillusioned. I am here for a reason, and waking up is how I prove it. Rewrite a new mantra to reclaim my voice. I will suffer in silence. It is my, if I suffer in silence, it is my choice. Man, that's a mic drop. Talk about it, bro. That's a mic drop.
Yeah, especially that last one because, like, for me, if I knew that I didn't be the one to really realize that, wait a minute, hold on, like I could have just let everything go, like all of my aspirations, my dreams, my visions to be a role model for people. Like if I would have let all that go, like how many people, like, you know what I mean? Not saying I'm someone's savior, but how many people, find life and what other people say
Mhm.
and really treasure it to the point where it's keeping them up and keeping them alive. And for me, suffering in silence was something that um I wanted to remind myself that um it's okay for me to suffer this, in this moment,
Mhm.
but it's not okay for me to stay there
Come on, brother.
because people are really looking at me as a role model, and so, like, for me, and it would have been my fault because I was the one in control of what I did after the suicide attempts several times over, to be able to say, okay, this is not working for me. Is there another way? Through books, through community, like what is the way out of this? Because for me, one of the biggest inspirations was my family. Like I always thought about, like, I don't want to, like, let down my family. I don't want to, like, um, you know, give up on my purpose of, my music. And that's the thing about suffering in silence is I didn't care about those things.
Mhm.
I didn't care about other people's opinions because I was stuck in my own darkness. I didn't care, like,
Yeah.
what legacy was because I was in a point where that didn't matter to me. Like everything else was out the window. So when it comes to suffering in silence, like um, what I say about that is it is subjected to what people do after their darkest moments.
Mhm.
Do they call 98? Do they reach out to a community or support group? Is what I did after the fact that I was in that dark place where I say, if I would have stood in that dark place, it would have been my doing.
Mhm.
And everyone has the right to dictate what they do after their darkest moments. Is do they let the dark time define them, the darkest moments define them, or they allow it to be a stepping stone to what they can become?
Come on.
So I picked the latter. I'm like, no, like this is the stepping stone for me to get better, get the healing, get the therapy, talk about it, and do all the self work I needed, do the affirmations, meditation, and things like that, so that I could empower myself to be, again, like I say, before, the catalyst for change and the catalyst for healing.
Mhm.
Because healing is such a big thing for me, where that healing journey, it took so long, but I know it was so worth it because it allowed me to realize that there's power in and what I went through, and then this is a blueprint for other people to navigate those same mental health struggles.
Yes. My man. Listen, what he said, what I said, what we said in the nutshell is you have a choice. You have a
Yes,
choice. You have
yes.
a choice, people. Don't don't ever allow your
Mm,
I, I always say it like this. The reason why I know you have a choice is because you are alive. You are
yes.
still
Mm,
here on this earth. So you have the only way that you are not going to have a choice is if you're no longer here. So if you're here on this earth, you have a choice. Choose life. It's a scripture in my favorite book, which I choose to call the Bible, my favorite book, that where God says, here I set before you today life and death. And he says, watch this. He said, I set before you today life and death. And he got it in both hands, right? He said,
mm,
choose life. So he even putting it out there. You see what I'm saying? He got both of them,
mm,
but he cheating and saying, here, choose life though. Choose life. And that's what we have. As long as we're alive, we got the opportunity to choose life, man. So thank you so much for that.
yes,
And I'm gonna go to the this last one
absolutely.
that I want to have you talk about. But before I say that, I want the world to hear because we talked about you mentioned about putting stuff under the rug, right? And many of us put
Mm,
stuff under the rug for many years of our lives. But one of the things that we don't pay attention to or focus on is that all of that stuff under the rug actually allows that rug to become this big old lump in the middle of
mm,
the room, and we walk
yeah.
around
Wow.
this. We walk around like it's not even
Mm-hmm.
there. And it's a big old lump in
Yeah.
the middle of our lives, interrupting our lives, shortening our lifespans, taking away from our greatness, choking the life out. It's doing all of these things. And we walk around it like it's not even there. And it is.
Mm,
So let's work towards getting that rug to be what it is, something that we supposed to walk on and not walk around. All right. So last,
mm,
brother Rich,
yes.
I have to I have to this is fitting to end this particular episode. It says, I love it. It says here, and I'm going back to why me, right? And this is the last bar in Why Me. It says, mental abuse happened for me, not to me, empowering others to not live like casualties. I'm through
Mm,
playing victim in my movie. God carved the victor. God carved a victor, so sue me. Go ahead, brother.
mm.
God carved the victor, so sue me. Talk about the victor.
Yes. No, this is powerful stuff. Like what Paul said, this is so powerful.
Yes.
Not because I wrote the book, you know, it's powerful because, like Paul said, there's so much power in choice, so much power in making that decision. And when I even remember the time when this mental abuse was so fresh to me, because I never, I mean, a few years ago it was I called it cyberbullying, or labeled it cyberbullying. I didn't know what mental abuse was until the dynamic that I had with my mentor. But I also realized, at that moment, like I'm like, oh my goodness, this is one of those things that I'm like, I had to like get it out of my system, because I literally was like, um fumbling over words, figuring out what I was going through and finding words for it. And I just, had like a voice memo on, and I'm like, then I started saying mental abuse, mental abuse. I will not tolerate your mental abuse. And I was just thinking, wow, like I had to say it at that moment, because I didn't know what it was. I was figuring it out. So like for me, all that to say, I am willing to go through those dark moments for someone else to be alive today. Like I'm willing to go to the darkest of darkness, the darker days, the darkest nights, so someone else could, live through my experience and really get the healing and trust that their circumstances is not a forever a life sentence,
That's right.
that they get to be released right from this mental prison, the mental prison in their minds, and that they can get the help. That's so important because people think help is such a weak thing, like
Well,
that's
it's
why I
far
say in the
away.
book about
You know what I'm
how,
saying?
yeah,
Yeah, it's, I'm saying
because
you say that they think it's a weak
yeah,
thing, or they think that it's far away,
yeah,
or like it's untouchable or
yeah,
unattainable. Go ahead. Yeah. Go
yes,
ahead, bro.
yes, yeah, to your point, far away, and people don't necessarily want to be the one reaching out first because for so long the label of you the B word XYZ was something that people were gravitating towards, and it's not the way, it's not the choice that I feel like it's productive along when it comes to self discovery and knowing that there is so much, there's another way to be able to be sensitive and get the help without having to sacrifice your mental well-being, like because that's the reason why mental abuse, and the reason why I called it why me, because when I was not wanting to go through mental abuse, I also realized that there was people who I would go through like these shows and speak about it, and they would be like, wait a minute, I I was going through this with someone else, and I didn't know that this was mental abuse, and you really spoke to what I was going through. And it's just like that's the reason why I do it, because it's to relate to other people and share what I've been through, so that someone could be on the other side of it, and know that there's another path to getting the help that they deserve, and normalizing it and being um able to speak about it so that they can be okay with getting it out, because a lot of us, we stay so stuck in especially me, it's still so stuck in the mental abuse, the um suicide ideation, where it was like a prison.
Mm-hmm. Ooh,
There was
wait.
nowhere to go
Ooh, wait.
but down. So I'm like, wait a minute, if I talk about it and I bring light to it, bring awareness through my music, through my poetry, through everything like that, there's life in it, and life that even is bigger than me, because people are just like, wait a minute, there's someone actually speaking about these things, and knowing that I can speak about it too in a way that helps set me free, and not allow me to just live in this mental prison, and be okay with talking about it. And that's the reason why I do it and write these poems too, because it allows people to see themselves in it, but also to get on the other side of it and know
Yeah.
that it's okay to voice their opinions and not keep it stuck with them. Because when you leave something stuck with you, it it will always be stuck in you. Like you'll let that trauma live in you.
Yeah.
It will project in every single thing you do
Yes.
if you
Yes.
don't resolve it right away. So
Yes, sir.
I encourage people to get the healing, the therapy, because it saves lives. It does save
Yes.
lives, and it helps other people know that there is a way out of darkness.
Well, people out there looking at this podcast, you're looking at two lives that has been saved. So we got proof. We have proof, living proof that it does save lives. You're looking at two lives that has been saved. So
Mm.
listen, brother Rich, it's been an honor and a pleasure, man. I think we can talk about this for hours and hours and hours because
Yes.
there's a whole lot to unpack when you talk about the
Yeah.
mental illness and watch this, the mental wellness. When you talk about the victim and
Uh,
you talk about the victory, it's so much to be able to unpack from both perspectives. Obviously, what we want to talk about is the victor perspective, is the
yeah.
healing perspective. We want to talk about that more
Mm.
than anything because it's easy to talk about the sickness. It's easy to talk
Yeah.
about the darkness. We hear that every day. Turn your TV on, listen to your radio. That's all they talk about is darkness. We want to talk about light. We want to talk about life. And so, with that being said, Brother Rich, tell the audience how they can go about getting your book.
Yes. Thank you so much. This has been an honor and a privilege. People can order my book on my website. So it's www.vysion.com. Is Rich VY like yellow SION.com to get the copy of my book, which comes with a book mark and also custom book a postcard as well. And it's also available on Amazon as well under From Victim to Victor, Transforming Trauma into Triumph under the name Richard C. Ram. So it's RICHARD SEERAM as a Mary C. Ram. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Listen, brother, it is so much of a privilege, man, to be able to have you on here again and to see that you're continuing to move the needle. Watch this, personally as well as
Mm,
professionally. You doing your thing,
thank
brother.
you.
And it's brothers like you, it's men like you who we need the world to continue to see. Because again, we in a time and in a place where people are crying out for help. Excuse me. But here's the but, right? Here's the but. They don't know how to ask for it. They're scared to ask for it, or they haven't been exposed to where to look for it at, right? And
Yeah.
so, thank you so much, Brother Rich, for coming on here again and telling the people about the victory behind this thing and how this thing, the victory does work. Again, I want y'all, I'm going to say this again, you all. Y'all looking at two people who are living in victory over all of the madness. So you can't, and I did it for 30 years. So you can't tell me that you cannot heal from
Mm,
this madness. Yes, you can. And I want to tell to
yes.
everybody out there listening, please get this guy's book. The book is powerful. It has an anointing on the book. It can help change your life for the better. It can change the quality of your life for the better. So thank you again, Rich Vision. Look him up on
Thank you.
YouTube. Look him up. His music up on all of the music platforms. He's there. And again, I would love to have you on here again. So look forward
Yes.
to coming back again, man, and us
Yes.
doing this again because, like I said, this is powerful, and I know that
Yeah.
it's needed. Man, I love you, brother. YouTube
Thank you.
audience, kick your butt out audience. I love you all so much, and we love you. I'm gonna say that we love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Before we go, I want to say what I always say: if you're looking for a butt, it's gonna always be easy to find one, and that, my friends, is a promise. With that being said, be well. Do the next right thing. God bless you all. We love you. Thank you. And we'll see you all in Kick Your Butt Out world and in Rich Vision world soon. Get the book. Get the book. Get the book. Get the book. Thank y'all so much.